Welcome to the AVAIL podcast, where we dig deep and talk about the art of leadership. My name is Virgil Sierra, and today we're sitting down with Marc Forster. Marc is a German-Swiss film director, producer, and writer. He is best known for directing the feature films Monsters Ball, Finding Neverland, Stranger Than Fiction, and Christopher Robin, to name just a few. In this episode, Marc will share about his new film release entitled Whitebird. From the world of wonder, which sparked a movement to choose kind, comes the inspirational next chapter, Whitebird. Struggling to fit in at his new school after being expelled for his treatment of Augie Pullman, Julian is visited by his grandmother, played by Helen Mirren, and is transformed by the compassionate and heroic story of her attempts to escape Nazi-occupied France during World War II. Whitebird is a story that reminds us to be brave and choose kindness. Lean in, everybody, and let's get started. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the AVAIL podcast, where we dig deep, talk about the art of leadership. We talk about things that are happening in our world that are making an impact. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, specifically as we connect with Marc Forster, director of an amazing movie that we're going to get a chance to be blessed by and encouraged by, and I think challenged by. Marc, it's great to have you on the AVAIL podcast. How are you doing, my friend?
Thank you. I'm doing so well, Virgil, and I'm really appreciated you having me on the podcast and that we can talk about Whitebird. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes, definitely. We're excited about Whitebird. For our AVAIL viewers and listeners, Whitebird is a movie that I believe is going to touch hearts. It's going to impact lives. And personally, I love movies that really not only tell a story, but really have a heart behind it. And I'd like to just, Marc, just talk a little bit about this, especially as people are thinking about or going to be hearing about Whitebird. Depending on when they watch this or listen to this, they're going to be interested. Whitebird shows the importance of loving your neighbor, for example, something that we believe in, something that we love here at AVAIL. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I first, the author of Whitebird, R.J. Palazzo, wrote a book called Wonder, and created sort of the Wonder universe. And I was a big fan of Wonder, the movie, and the book. And then one day my agent called me up and said, "Look, you have to read this script. It's sort of like he described it as a sequel, but then I thought, it's about the author took the bully from Wonder and in a redemptive story." And I said, I love redemption, and
That's right.
And said, look, ultimately it's a redemptive story. It will move you. So I'm reading the script, and next thing I know, I'm like bawling, and I think, oh my, this is so beautiful. And it sort of inspired me that kindness lives on forever. And it's really, as you touched on, it's like the importance of loving your neighbor. And there's in the heart of it, there's this inspirational love story. And I felt like this is the exact story that it was about 6 weeks into COVID. And I felt like this is the story we need, this kind of a story we need to see and tell right now.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, I'm a fan of Wonder. I think it's a movie that really causes people to think, of all ages. And specifically, even in Whitebird, just the heart and the theme of kindness. I think it's a lost art nowadays. I think it's not as easy to see and find. On a personal level, can you share an experience maybe where you experienced or maybe you saw kindness in action during a tough time? How was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I literally when I finished reading the script, I came out of my door and I lost my mailbox key. And a neighbor, literally a couple of days, I had to bring out someone to fix it because I couldn't fix myself. So I come back, and there's literally, he taped a little envelope to my door, and there was a key in it. It was a new mailbox key, and said, "I fixed it for you." And I was thinking that was such a kind thing it wasn't a big thing, but it was just such a kind gesture of you mentioning something to someone and your neighbor, and he just goes and fixes it. And I think, sometimes it's not great acts of bravery, like in the movie where someone really puts their own life on the line to save someone else. it can be small things in life too, where we can make a big difference and put a smile on someone's face, just to make, like, sort of do acts of kindness and don't expect anything back in return.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. At AVAIL, we kind of target, we talk a lot to leaders, people who are in positions of influence, of leadership, in churches, in the ministry, in the marketplace. And I think what you're saying right now is important for us as leaders to remember and to understand. It's that we can make a difference by doing even the small things. It doesn't have to be something big, extravagant, or extraordinary. It can be just a gesture, a small random act of kindness can go a long way. Mark, I know our time is limited, but I love the idea that Whitebird is somehow connected to the movie Wonder, which captured so many of our hearts when it came out. Thematically, can you talk to us a little bit about that connection, or maybe, and I know you mentioned kind of it was drawn out of there, but can you talk to us a little bit about that connection between Whitebird and Wonder?
Yeah, I think, both movies are about compassion, bravery, humanity, and us all connecting and doing the right thing. It's about doing the right thing, and ultimately, both movies deal with bullying as well, both stories.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in this case here we see, I casted the same actor that was the bully in Wonder also in Whitebird, and Bryce plays him, and ultimately his grandmother comes and tells him her story, and as she tells him, that's Helen Mirren, who's the grandmother, tells him the story. It's also about how she wasn't she was saved by a boy they bullied in school, and she didn't see him and she wasn't aware of him, and ultimately that kid put his life on the line to save her. So it's a different story, but it also deals in that Wonder universe about kindness, forgiveness, redemption, and ultimately, there's this thing. I feel like I'm an optimist, and I feel like there's darkness and there's light, and the light always will overcome the darkness. And I feel this in this movie as well, and it's a very strong message about that.
Yeah, I think it's great. I had a chance to watch some of the scenes, and man, it really gets the heart pumping, just kind of getting drawn into the story. Something that you guys did really good, really well in this movie, is balance. I mean, it's a real serious topic. Like the subject, the subject of what's happening in the time when it's happening is very serious. And then at the same time, there's this story of young love and hope that's kind of interwoven together. Can you speak about, how do you do, as a director, how do you make that happen?
You walk in this thin line. There's a movie I did many years ago called Finding Neverland, and it was about how Jane Barrie was inspired to write Peter Pan, and it deals with magical realism. So when I did that film, and I realized how difficult it was to have this interwovenness, that you walking up this thin line, to make it real and to make the film grounded, but also at the same time that the story is magical and sort of transports you in your own imagination without being corny, because you want to make sure it stays on this sort of, that the groundedness still is real, and you're emotionally, like sometimes a movie pushes a little bit too far, and it's like literally for a director, you're working with music, you're working with imagery, you're working with light, you're working with so many different elements that you just try to find that balance. But it's about sometimes at the end for your personal taste.
That's good. That's good. It's an art, and it's a gifting that God has given you, my friend, and your team, to be able to bring it together. Again, just watching some of the scenes, it feels magical because it's taking you into this story, into this world, which obviously is so real, and at the same time, you feel connected to it. As a
When you just said that, and I believe that we all are given gifts. But sometimes, when I'm on a set, I just to try to listen as well. It's not just me, that you just always listen.
Yeah.
Because there are certain things you just need to, when you listen enough, you just then can use what you're being told.
Yeah, that's so good. In my past, at one point, I was a singer of a band, and we put out a new CD, a new album. As a pastor and a leader, I put out new projects. As you put out, as Whitebird gets out there, right? As Whitebird now is released, what are you hoping that viewers take away from not only the experience but from the message of the movie?
I hope that they're taking away to feel inspired, and I hope I made the movie that I for a four-quadrant audience that can watch with my daughter, I can watch with my mom, and then
Mm.
we can all sit and discuss it. And I want everyone to take away, that there is, that ultimately light overcomes darkness. Kindness is one of the most important gifts you can share between all of us. And it's important to love your neighbor, and not judge a book by its cover. You never know who you meet, and who you help, and who is across, and you just open your heart to anyone who needs help.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I have one last question, Mark, and maybe it's kind of on the creative side, right? On the creative, this is a creative process, right? Making a movie and making everything come together. In your experience, for example, you said you read the book or the script. How did it feel from the moment you read the story to then starting to come up with some ideas and then executing, you know, the journey? How's that journey in a few words? Like, how is that experience?
It's if you read, like for me, when I read something, just images come to mind,
Uh-huh.
and I just see them, and they come just naturally. And I was like, when I was in school, I was dyslexic, and then the
Mhm.
teacher looked said, "Oh, he has dyslexia," and I talked to my mother about it, and then my mother says, "Yeah, but he's talented in many other different ways," and she just like always pushed me that.
Wow.
Even you might be weak here, you be strong over here. So there was always a balance, and let's
Mm.
just let's and so when I read something, it just I see it very clearly in front of me,
Wow.
and it's just I've been given that gift, as you said before, and I see it, and then I feel like that's how it should be, because that's so. But I mean, someone else sees it maybe differently, but that's sort of like you have to stick to the vision you've been given.
Yeah, that's good. Here at Avail, we love supporting and kind of pushing forward projects that really cause people to think, cause people to love, cause people to express and extend kindness and encouragement, especially in a world where that's not as common as maybe it should be. And I think I would say that's a good place to land the plane here, Mark. I think a project like this causes people to think. Even like you said, I can imagine after watching it with my family, being able to sit down and talk with my kids about it. And I imagine for you and your team, it probably brings some fulfillment and satisfaction knowing that people can watch this and then they can actually take a life lesson from it. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree. And you always, when you finish a project, you always step back and try to be very critical. And I must say, when my mom saw the movie recently, and she said, "Oh, that's my favorite movie ever made." So if your mom tells you that, and say, "Okay." I'm pretty happy. I'm pleased, because usually my mom is very, very critical.
That's good. Moms can be our harshest critics, so that's a good sign.
My daughter was just literally here. She says, says that to me. Dad, I think that's a really good movie. I think you really made a good movie. So I think it's your family, which is always the harshest critics, saying you did well. It's fine.
I like that. Mark, thank you so much for taking some time to connect with us here at Avail. Again, our heart is to equip leaders with resources that are going to help them. And I think the movie Whitebird is going to be a resource that's going to help people, it's going to encourage people. Is there anything else you want to leave us with as we close off this interview?
No, I just want to tell you thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Really appreciate all the messages you put out there, and doing a great work. So thanks for making me a part of it, and making Whitebird a part of it.
Yeah, we're excited about it. Everybody, you can go to whitebird.movie to see more information. And please, please go out with your family, go out with your friends, and check out an amazing movie, Whitebird. Thank you, Mark, for being with us. And on behalf of Avail, everybody, my name is Virgil Sierra, and it's good having you here for another episode of the Avail podcast. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the AVAIL podcast with our guest, Marc Forster. You can find out more about Marc's movie, Whitebird, on social media and by going to whitebird.movie. For more leadership resources, check us out at theartofleadership.com. And make sure to claim your free trial subscription of the AVAIL Journal at availjournal.com. As always, I'm your AVAIL podcast host, Virgil Sierra. Muchas gracias. Thank you for connecting with us to learn the art of leadership here at the AVAIL podcast.